A couple Deion things that have kind of come out, as you talked about, Jake, over the last hour. There are many rumors coming out right now that Deion has basically let it be known that if Dallas officially offers him the job, that he'll take it. Pretty interesting. So Deion's done a couple media hits as of late. That's where that's kind of stemming from as well. But when Deion was asked about, his son, Shedeur Sanders, and of course, would he actually step in and allow certain teams or deny certain teams the opportunity to draft his son and Shedeur Sanders, he did say that yes, there are some teams that there are some of the, there are certain teams that he would step in and deny the opportunity to draft his son. Buy or sell, the Browns being one of those teams. Are the Browns one of those teams that Deion would step in and block from signing or drafting Shedeur Sanders in the 2025 NFL Draft?
Funny enough, I think Deion answered this question in about 2018. Casey, I sent you the tweet. I love what the Browns have done this offseason, but if I'm a young QB, ain't no way I'm going to Cleveland. I would pull an Eli Manning if possible. Hashtag think about that. Hashtag truth.
Hashtag truth.
So hashtag truth, Kenner. I think Deion Sanders would block Shedeur Sanders from going to Cleveland, and it doesn't help you that the Giants are right behind you, and Shedeur was wearing those Giants cleats in the bowl game.
I'm gonna be honest. I do disagree with the notion that quarterbacks should decline a draft spot, right? Like if a team drafts you, I do think you should honor that. I think you should be a part of the team. That's where you were drafted. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. The Browns are the exception. The Browns are absolutely the exception, where they've had a never-ending rotation of quarterbacks, failed quarterback experiments for 25 years now. There's no way if I was a star quarterback would I risk going to Cleveland. No chance. So am I going to buy or sell that they're one of those teams? Yes, I'm going to buy it.
Buy or sell that the Browns are one of those teams? I 1,000,000,000% buy that the Browns are one of those teams. Do I agree that they should be one of those teams? Now, you'll just say I'm a homer, so that's fine, and I understand where you're coming from with that. But keep in mind, Deion's supposed to be this mature adult that is leading college programs or a possible NFL team. And you're more obsessed with the city of which your son plays in because of the glitz and glamour of New York than you are the opportunity to go and better your son as a football player. If you think you could do that, fine. Then you go be the coach of the Giants or, get him to Dallas. I understand that. If he wants to maneuver his son to go play for him somewhere, fine. But because New York is New York and it's cooler, that's a better fit than Cleveland, who, again, take out the city. It's about the offense and the coach that you'd be going to play for. I don't care what anybody says. Kevin Stefanski is actually probably one of the better things that could happen to Shedeur Sanders coming into the NFL. You brought up the history of Cleveland. I can't argue that. It's been an absolute murderer's row of quarterbacks. You can. I'm meeting you halfway. Cool it. I'm meeting you. No, but the end of the day, yes, Cleveland has not had success with quarterbacks throughout the duration of their return to Cleveland, no doubt about it, but let's not ignore the success that Kevin Stefanski has had with quarterbacks. Let's not act like this guy can't coach quarterbacks or have success with quarterbacks who are worthy of being quarterbacks. The only quarterback that Kevin Stefanski, or the two that he has not had success with, is DTR, who's not good, and Deshaun Watson, who has just been an absolute train wreck. He has won with geriatric Joe Flacco. He has figured it out and brought up the best. I mean, he won Coach of the Year multiple times and won a playoff game with Baker Mayfield the first time around during his rookie run. Obviously we saw how good the offense looked when they had Jameis Winston before they changed quarterbacks to see what they had with DTR. I'm not saying Cleveland makes the playoffs with Jameis Winston because they dug themselves in a hole too early on, but that offense was clicking. I do have a problem with this idea that Cleveland, you can't send your quarterback there. If you want to make it about the city and about the history of the team, fine, but you have to have the smarts to look at the situation. You mean to tell me Kevin Stefanski is the worst thing that can happen to Shedeur Sanders, who is already being viewed as not a first-round pick anyways, but will be drafted high because the quarterbacks are bad in this draft to begin with? I buy that he's one of those, that they're one of those teams because Deion does not want him to go there. But this idea that Kevin Stefanski would not be good for Shedeur is just asinine, if you ask me.
I 100% agree with you that I think Kevin Stefanski would be one of the best coaches for Shedeur to land with. How long is Kevin Stefanski the coach in Cleveland?
Well,
we've already heard about the seat getting a little hot, and obviously the Deshaun Watson thing makes it, but if he drafts Shedeur and it doesn't work, Then you're firing Stefanski after a year or two, and then you have Shedeur, and you have to get a new quarterback, and then you are just the Browns, and you don't have Stefanski at the helm anymore?
Well, from this position from Deion's side, if it doesn't work, Kevin Stefanski has done enough to show that he can win with a lot of. He made the playoffs last year and won 11 games with 5 different quarterbacks.
Right.
Stefanski has proven he can win with quarterbacks. He's proven that he can get the best out of quarterbacks. I mean, that's already been proven.
But unless you know he's there long term.
But if Shedeur is who they think he is, then he will
I guess
be
in
there
that sense, yeah.
So to me, if Shedeur goes there and it doesn't work out, I'm not willing to say it's because of Kevin Stefanski.
Then it's on Shedeur. Yeah.
But
that's fair.
And maybe I'm giving too much credit to Kevin Stefanski, but if Kevin Stefanski has done exactly what he's done in Cleveland with the results of the offense anywhere else, he's getting way more praise. But I think, again, he's also getting – and by the way, he handled that Deshaun thing poorly. I don't know if you read that report. I'm not going to ignore that. That was really messed up. We could talk about that more in a bit. But just from a Deion perspective, from a Shedeur Sanders perspective, Shedeur is not as good as what everyone says to begin with, and he's acting like he's coming in as Joe Burrow, this Heisman-winning, national championship, undefeated type level quarterback, and he's not. So that's my problem too. That's why I got mad when Eli did it. I'm like, you're not good enough to do that. I don't think Shedeur's good enough to do this. The quarterbacks that are good enough to do it, they're always happy. They go where they want happily. Like, you know what I mean? Like Joe Burrow, there was the talks of at the time, a lot of people were urging Joe Burrow not to be drafted by Cincinnati, and a lot of those reasons were valid. But he stuck it out with Cincinnati, and he's elevated them. And if Shedeur is a Joe Burrow, if Shedeur is this Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, then he should be good enough to go elevate a team as well. The Texans were considered one of the worst organizations in football a few years ago. Draft C.J. Stroud. They've won 2 playoff games, won back-to-back division championships in the playoffs back-to-back years. Like, if the quarterback is special, you can go elevate that franchise. The Commanders were a joke. Absolute joke. Look what Jane Daniels is doing. Shedeur, if he's the real, stop making this about how Cleveland's a joke. Shedeur's being viewed as a joke too. Let's stop overpropping Shedeur to act like Cleveland's not good enough for Shedeur. When I don't think Shedeur is good enough for the NFL, that's the big question mark right now.
But I think all those teams you've mentioned have had success with quarterbacks. The Browns.
Stop with teams. It's about the coaches. It's about the coaches.
No,
right
it's
now.
not about it's about the logo.
So
He's not going to Cleveland because of the logo.
But
and
that's
the history
idiotic
of that team.
to me. I understand it. I think that's idiotic. Not you.
Oh, I think I think it's fairly smart.
There's no way if I'm a quarterback
if I have a choice, I'm not going to Cleveland.
And I read those 50 names.
What do those 50 names have to do with this with this coaching staff, with this organization right now?
You just can't remove that.
You mean the organization
they have nothing to do with
that made the worst deal in sports history by bringing Deshaun Watson in? There's no way I'd associate with this franchise. And that's not to be disrespectful. It's just if I were a young quarterback like Shedeur is, and I was looking at the talent that I have and the options I have available to me, there's no way I land in
But what
Cleveland.
was there about Cincinnati that made Joe Burrow want to go play in Cincinnati? Because there was nothing really alluring about that either.
Bengals have had
Historic
success.
QB success.
But success.
The Bengals have had success.
But the situation at hand.
The Browns have had 4 winning
We're not
seasons.
talking about
But you
instant
guys have talked
situations.
about how down the Bengals have been before Joe Burrow got there. Joe Burrow gets there. And then now, look, it's a completely different story. It's not like Cincinnati. There's a lot of franchises that just keep the train moving no matter who the quarterback is. That's not the Cincinnati
Dalton
Bengals.
won, Boomer won, Ken Anderson won. Like,
Won
there's
what?
quarterback success.
What do they win? What do they-
Games got to the playoffs.
Games.
What
Cleveland's winning games right now.
What are-
Not this season, but Cleveland's been winning games. They've had multiple playoff appearances over the last 5 years.
They've
Like,
had
what
4
are we
winning
doing?
seasons in 20 years.
Right.
That's
they haven't won.
freaking tastic.
So they don't win. So why would a quarterback want to go there?
Cleveland as a whole, you're using an entire history of an organization.
Correct.
And
Correct.
ignoring the recent history. And
Correct.
the recent history is what you're being drafted to.
No, everyone is looking at the organizational history. That's the only reason they're
Then
even
why
in this
did
conversation.
so many people view Cincinnati as a joke when Joe Burrow was
Because
drafted there?
Cincinnati's
No one said-
organizational history
well,
is worlds better than the Browns.
Okay, but the Browns had nothing to do with the perception of Joe Burrow going to Cincinnati at that time. It was still viewed as a joke. Joe Burrow has made it not a joke.
I don't
it's the
think
responsibility.
it was. Joe Burrow was never going to not go to Cincinnati. That was a Colin Cowherd talking point.
It wasn't just Colin Cowherd. There was a lot of people that were kind of
There was a
pushing
0%
for
chance
that.
Joe Burrow was
0%
opting
chance
out of
because also the thing is, at the same time, it's just idiotic of athletes to do that. It's a privilege to play in
That's
the
a
NFL.
fine take.
It's
I
a
agree
privilege
with
to
that.
play in the
That is a
NFL.
take I agree with.
But
to
I
act
think
like it's crazy to look
there's
at
a
the
lot of
organizational
fan
history of the
bases
Browns
out there
is
that
nuts.
can mock the Browns. I definitely don't think you're one of them.
I think
definitely
every
don't
organization
think you're one
in
of them.
every sport can mock the Browns.
They
Except for
can
the
mock
Jets.
them.
Jets are the only
but
Jets,
to
maybe.
sit,
And
you
maybe
can
the
you can
Reds.
mock and poke
Jets and the
fun.
Reds are the
Jets
only
and the
one-
Reds
are the
can't.
only organizations
Mock
that
and
can
poke
mock.
fun all you want, but there's a lot of fan bases
I'm not
that
even- I'm not
poke
even-
fun at the Bengals.
I'm not
at this
even-
The Bengals
particular
have won
situation.
divisions.
That's fantastic. And up until a couple, like the goalpost keeps moving because a few years ago you didn't even get to say the Bengals win playoff games. It took 30 years to finally win a playoff game. Now you get to use that, and why? Because you got the quarterback
won the
right.
North.
The Browns are a quarterback away from getting things right, just like the Bengals
Dalton
are a
won the
quarterback
North.
away. That's fantastic that they won the North. That's great.
Okay, so
The
we're
Browns
gonna-
have
Andy
we have to
Dalton, you
believe
guys wanted Andy Dalton out because
Right,
no one
'cause he
liked
wasn't
Andy
good
Dalton
enough.
because he wasn't good enough.
And he still won more than anyone in
That's
the Browns
great.
has
Andy
ever
Dalton
won.
is better than anything that the Browns have had at quarterback. Yes, absolutely.
So the organizational history at quarterback for the Browns and
So
Bengals are drastically different.
That is so stupid. Okay, Andy Dalton.
How can
That's
you
what
look at
you're
the Browns
waving
and
the
Bengals
flag
at
of how great
quarterback?
the Bengals are because of Andy Dalton.
He would be the best quarterback in Browns history.
That's great. That has nothing to do
That's the
with
whole
who the
point.
Browns are at this particular situation.
But you can't just look at this
You
situation.
absolutely can.
Well, they're obviously not.
You absolutely can. That's like saying, are the Chicago Bulls a great NBA organization right now?
I think they're not viewed as bad as they are because of the history.
They are a joke of an organization.
Right.
They haven't won anything since Michael Jordan
And
left.
they're
They are a
viewed
joke of an
as better
organization.
than they
I
currently
don't think
are
this
because
is-
of the Jordan
I
era.
don't think this is. I don't think this is personal. I think if you look at the Cleveland Browns in the past,
Why do you smirk when you talk? Why do you do that? Why do you?
Because
why do you
this
do
is an
this?
obvious take that you're
Because this
arguing.
is-
It's not an obvious. I'm
The Browns have
acknowledge-
the worst quarterback success of any franchise in the history of the NFL.
That's great. Kevin Stefanski doesn't. That's who the head coach is right
You
now.
have to look at the whole organization.
You don't. What does the previous coaches that aren't here anymore have to do with Kevin Stefanski?
Well, obviously, it mattered for the coach before Kevin Stefanski. This is an organizational
Those coaches
problem.
didn't have that success. That's why Kevin Stefanski has won 2 Coach of the Years and is still here.
And when he gets fired in 2 years, when the next quarterback doesn't work, we'll have the same conversation with the next coach.
And just like all coaches get fired when the quarterback doesn't work, except for Mike Tomlin.
That's true.
Except for Mike Tomlin. And then, of course, yes. And then the Marvin Lewis thing, going back to that run, like Andy Dalton, yes, the team was winning, but you guys were all saying during that time, well, if only we had a quarterback, if only we had a quarterback. But because
If
you
you
want to
had a
win this
quarterback-
argument, Andy Dalton is just this
If you had a
amazing
quarterback with
Peyton
the
Manning
success
level
Andy
quarterback.
Dalton had in Cincinnati, we probably wouldn't talk about Shedeur blocking the Browns.
If what?
If you had a quarterback in Cleveland with the success Andy Dalton had in
had Andy
Cincinnati,
Dalton. There were
we
still
wouldn't
people
talk
talking-
about Shedeur blocking the Browns.
But there were still people and by the way, we're not talking about Shedeur blocking the
Or
Browns. We're
Deion
talking about his
blocking the
daddy
Browns.
having
I
to
think
block the
Shedeur would
Browns.
very much not like to play
Yeah.
for the Browns.
But the bottom line is like even with the Bengals, Andy Dalton, great success there. There were still people talking about
Yeah,
why
Carson
Joe Burrow should
Palmer
not.
and
And by the
Colin
way,
Cowherd.
and where's Joe Burrow right now?
In Cincinnati.
No. Where are the Bengals right now? Oh, they didn't make the playoffs. Oh, they've missed the playoffs in 3 of the 5 years that Burrow's been here. This was the reason why everyone was like, Joe Burrow shouldn't go to Cincinnati because they're going to waste his talent. You all 3 have said how they're wasting his talent. You've all said this. But right now, all of a sudden, the Bengals are a great organization, not wasting the talent of this great quarterback.
I never said the Bengals are a great organization. I just said they're like 5 times what the Browns are.
Okay, I could be taller than someone that's 5'4". I'm not tall. I'm just taller than someone that's 5'4".
In that comparison,
so
you'd
if
be
you're
pretty
better
tall.
than the Browns, I'm not really sure you're making the point you think you are.
We are arguing whether it's crazy for them to block Shedeur going to the Browns. And it's not because the organization is the worst
because
organization in the history of professional
You're
sports.
not being drafted to the 1986 Browns or the 1992
You're being
Browns. You're
drafted
being
to the
drafted to the
Browns.
2000.
The Browns is the Browns is the
You're being
Browns.
drafted. The Cleveland Cavaliers are, right now, they're doing good. But before that, it was LeBron James. And if you got drafted to the Cavs, that wasn't a good thing. But if you went to play with LeBron James, it was a good thing. The Cavs.
If the Browns had a LeBron James, I'd change my tune.
If anyone had a LeBron James, everyone would change
For
their
sure.
tune, regardless of the history of the franchise.
And the Browns will never get it because their history's
So
so bad.
Shedeur's not LeBron.
Correct.
Okay. So who the hell is he to decide where he gets to go?
I think if you believe in yourself in any standard, you wouldn't go to Cleveland.
Nobody believes in Shedeur at this point.
I think
Everyone's
Shedeur probably
mocking
does.
the Shedeur, and I'm sure he does.
So why would he go to
Cocky's
Cleveland and set
arrogant
himself
dude.
up for failure?
What's that? Why? You're not guaranteed. Baker Mayfield had success there. Jameis
And then you
Winston has had.
kicked
Joe
him out.
Flacco has had success there.
Baker had success. You kicked
By
him
the
out.
way, Baker, everyone was fine with them kicking Baker out. Everyone was against Baker Mayfield when he was having success in Cleveland because everyone saw what we see now. Very good quarterback with the ceiling. The Buccaneers aren't going anywhere with Baker
that
Mayfield.
ceiling's
He
a
puts
lot
up big
higher than the
numbers.
quarterbacks the Browns have had since.
The ceiling, by the way, was significantly higher for the perception of what Deshaun Watson was supposed to be. No one in their right mind would have
could've
guessed
seen
that he
this
would have
coming?
had. No one would have saw that coming.
I think a lot of people saw this
No,
coming.
I promise you. If he goes
Quarterback
to
that sat on the
Atlanta,
couch for 2
by the
years,
way,
being not as
if he
good.
would have gone to Atlanta, everyone would have said, "Man, look out! The Atlanta's about to take on the world." All right, because
Dude,
no
Deshaun
one
Watson
hates
with
the.
Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan? That would have been sick.
Oh yeah, compared to
Terrible
the Bucs,
weapons in Cleveland.
compared the weapons that Joe Flacco won with?
A lot of F words for the radio.
Yes,
Casey
because
has another.
the hate for the Browns is
The
leading
Browns
your
are a
argument.
joke, Kenner.
Justin, it's not personal.
They're
brother.
terrible.
It's not
You
personal.
don't smirk about any other team you talk about.
I-
Don't
Because
tell
you're the
me-
only one
My
that defends
rest-
the
my
Browns.
rest-
I'm not the only one. I'm the only one in here that's
My
defending the
resting
Browns.
Browns
This is
fans
the
defend the
smirk.
Browns. You're right. Everyone else
My
thinks they're the worst
resting
organization in
face is
professional
the
sports.
smirk.
Kevin Stefanski has had success with more than a handful of quarterbacks, and you're bringing up the one that he has not had success with and acting like that's the whole narrative of the Cleveland Browns. It's not.
The whole narrative of the Cleveland Browns is that quarterbacks don't work. That's the whole narrative about the Browns.
I just gave the team that made the playoffs last year with 5 different quarterbacks. Quarterbacks don't work.
Correct. Look at the 40 names on the back of a
Kevin
jersey.
Stefanski finds you're bringing up the
You're
whole
the
history.
only person that ignores
You're
that
not
stuff.
being no, because you're not being drafted to the history of the Browns. You're being drafted to Kevin Stefanski.
You got to wear
and
that
the
orange
Cleveland
helmet, and that
Browns.
would stink for your career.
Orange helmets. I mean, yes, apparently must be horrible.
Well, you got a good stripe on it. Look at that sucker.
Give me my helmet. Give it. Give it. I'm taking it back. Give me my
wearing
helmet.
it?
I'm throwing it out. I'm throwing it away. I'm throwing it away. Just throwing it away. Throwing away the Cincinnati Bengals helmet. I hope I didn't think about that, what was over there. I don't know what I hit, but my bad.
This was your segment.
This was your segment.
And
was
you
your
win.
segment.
You
We're backing
won.
up you. We're blocking the quarterback to the worst quarterback franchise of all time, and Kenner's getting mad. about it.
I'm not. This isn't personal shots at all. I'm not.
These aren't
I'm not,
even takes.
I'm not
These are
even.
just
I'm not even like
things that have
saying anything
happened.
bad. I'm
You
just,
don't, that annoying smirk you do. You don't do about any other team.
dude. This is how I speak. That's
Not. I talk to you every day. You don't.
I talk with
you,
a smirk. That is
you
exactly
hate the
what I do.
Browns and you dislike me, so that's why you position all this because you're
What is
winning.
going on
you
now?
you get this reaction out of me and you're winning, and I don't want you to win.
This was your segment. I didn't want to talk about it. This was your segment.
You didn't want to. What do you mean you didn't want to talk about it?
This was your segment.
you are the one that proposed this segment.
I didn't propose this
You
segment.
had that tweet ready. We're done. Off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Have a great rest of your evening, everybody.